SC Magazine, and I'm with Dr. Hugh Thompson, Senior Vice President and Chief Security Strategist at Blue Coat System. Thanks for being with us today.
Hey, thanks for having me.
We had a really big year in security. If you had to sum it up in one word, what would it be?
Scary.
Scary.
Yeah. That's a little generic, but it is kind of scary.
Yeah.
We've seen some really high-end attacks, very targeted, sophisticated stuff, but also things like distributed denial of service attacks come in with scale in a slightly different way. So I think there's rays of hope. Don't get me wrong, but I think it has escalated security up the chain in businesses to become a real business-level discussion, a board-level discussion in some cases.
Now, talking about that threat landscape, we had these great discoveries. We had Flame, we had Mini Flame, we had Gauss.
It's interesting to phrase these great discoveries.
Well, they're not that great, but essentially we had this changing threat landscape. What about it stood out to you the most? Yeah,
that's a good question. I think the thing that struck me the most is when you dig down into some of these highly targeted attacks, how personalized many of them are. Right? It's not your mom's malware attack, right? Where you've got generic things going out to people, somebody will make a silly mistake and click on something. These guys are doing a lot of research, not just research about network topographies and that type of thing, but research into people. Who's your system administrator? Have they been on vacation recently? What's their favorite sports team? They're doing that level of research to get inside of a company. I think that's disturbing. I think the other thing that's kind of interesting is just the scale of it that we've seen over these last 12 months for sure.
Now, security always seems to be playing the catch-up game. How do you think they did in 2012?
I'm an optimist, right? Let me preamble it with that. I think we're turning the corner in some sense. It's been scary, which I kind of said earlier, but I do think that there are some signs of hope. I think we're seeing security up-level in the agenda of the business, which is a very good thing. That means that the actuaries and the kind of folks that crunch numbers and ask, what is the real risk here, are starting to ask those questions in a more determined way. I think that's a good thing. I think in some ways that's professionalizing security. But I think we better step up in the security industry around showing our value. I think we need better metrics. I think it's incumbent on all of us, no matter where you sit in the security ecosystem, to ask, how can I measure this preventative action that I'm taking?
Now we're wrapping up a big year in security. I'm going to have you look into your crystal ball and sort of see, what do you see, what do you think folks should be looking toward or focusing on in the new year? What can we look forward to, or what can people kind of...
Yeah, that's, it's a tough one. It's an industry that changes so quickly. But I'll say right now, I think that there's going to be a lot more focus on this human element of security. People asking, how do we personalize security? How do we individualize it? How do we deal with people making mistakes? I think that's a big one. I think you're going to see a lot around big data analytics. And I know that that's just a big buzzword right now, but I think in some ways in 2013 it's going to be real, meaning that you're going to see real positive business and security advantages to this better mining of large data sets. I think that's going to happen. I think you've already seen some really good maturity in cloud around security. It's a good thing. I think that'll continue in 2013. And I still think there's big open questions around BYOD. So I hope that some of those get solved. I won't be so ambitious to say that most of them do, but I think some of them will.
Obviously, BYOD, very hot topic. Hopefully we do get some of those questions answered. Dr. Hugh Thompson, Blue Coat Systems, thanks for being with us today.
Hey, thanks for having me.